Morning, YouTube. Well, today I'm in Bardstown, Kentucky at the Oscar Getz History of Whiskey Museum. There's also included here a local history museum, and right now I'm in the section that was the chapel when this was a Catholic school for girls. And at one point it had been a hospital during the Civil War for both Union and Confederate soldiers that had been wounded. And I guess at night, from opposite sides of the war, they'd throw stuff at each other, which is one of the things. This right now, I said this is the chapel. They still do use this for weddings and stuff, but it's got some pretty cool things. So there's a lot of distilleries in this area. I'm on what I've seen signs all along the way of being the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. And one of the things that is really interesting is Reverend Elijah Craig.
Oh, okay.
He was known as the father of bourbon because what he did in his distillery was to actually char the inside of the barrels where nobody had thought of that before, and it does add a mellower flavor to it. So let's keep looking. So I'm sure you've heard of Wild Turkey bourbon. Well, the way it got its name was in 1869. The Rippey family distillery was founded in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, and by 1893 they beat out 400 other whiskeys at the World's Fair to represent Kentucky. And in 1940. Thomas McCarthy was a distillery executive, and he took some friends wild turkey hunting, and he brought along some special bourbon. Well, the next year, his friends getting ready to go hunting requested that he bring that wild turkey bourbon again, and he honored them and kept that name, and since that point, we've all heard of wild turkey. Now, way back in the spring of 1975, my wife and I went on sort of our second honeymoon 6 months later, and down to Virginia. And on our way back, we stumbled on this distillery in a dry county, and they couldn't give us any samples, but we bought some. And I couldn't remember the name when I got here, but it's Michener's, and they've got a whole display of all their stuff. It's a double pot, copper pot distillery, and it's in Lebanon County, PA. So if you happen to be in that general direction, stop in, check it out. It's pretty interesting. So you may have seen the TV show Moonshiners. You get an idea of what they used to do way back in the day. But this would have been one of the big copper stills, and of course the thumper barrel it'd come in and cool down and drain off. There's all kinds of different kinds of stills, big ones, little ones. I don't think I've ever seen one quite like that one before. That's a yeast, or the yeast cooler. Well, you can't talk about whiskey and liquor and whatnot without talking about Prohibition. Lasted 14 years and was definitely a failed experiment. But what a lot of people don't know is that during Prohibition, the doctors could write you a prescription for alcohol. So a lot of this in here was legal, bottled for medicinal use. And of course, one of the big figures that most people have heard of during Prohibition is Carrie Nation. I mean, she went around with carrying a Bible and a hatchet and would smash things. They had commemorative things. Here's a commemorative hatchet for her, and they actually had little lapel pins that she could wear in support of her. So if you wanted to have some of your drink, your whiskey, without people really knowing about it, you could disguise the things like a hammer. It's actually a decanter, or this pretzel-like thing women could keep in their purse. There's even one that's like disguised as the Bible, or fruit. You could have some fruit and stuff laying around your kitchen, but that'd be hiding your whiskey. Some other kinds of bottles and stuff. Very decorative. Different ways to have a flask. And of course, you got these kind of bottles that would have had all kinds of the different ones in it, but the one that sort of stands out is this one here on the end. If you don't want your children or your servants to get at it, you can put a combination lock stopper on it. Keep your kids out of your alcohol. What's sort of interesting is that in 1832 in New Salem, Illinois, Abraham Lincoln went into business with William F. Berry, opened a general store. But within a year, they sold off pretty much everything but the alcohol, and it became a tavern. So this is the man himself, Oscar Getz. He passed away in '83, but he bought and paid to have this building renovated. It had been empty for many, many years, and to house his vast collection of whiskey-related materials. And he did. His wife took up after his death and made sure this place was up and running. Well, that ends my visit here to the museum. There's a ton of stuff to see. I just touched on it. Well worth the visit. A little hard to find, but it's here in Bardstown. It's not that far off of the interstate. So if you get a chance, stop in. Very interesting place, and they're trying to get actually be on the official Bourbon Trail. This town actually has Jim Beam and Maker's Mark distilleries right here in town, so you can tour them too. So I'm not a whiskey drinker, but I do enjoy history. So I'll see you later, YouTube. I'm gonna get back on the road and go to another historic spot. It's just down the road a little ways.